Good morning and welcome to the Rutherford County Farmers Market Seasonal Eating Program. Today we're doing menu or meal planning, and I appreciate Ken Smith working the camera back there for us, and Diane also as a certified master gardener for Rutherford County. I appreciate you all coming out for the program this morning here in Murfreesboro. My name is Carla Bush. I am the University of Tennessee TSU Extension Family Consumer Sciences agent here. I work with Misty Lane Watkins and Tiffany Schmidt also to do nutrition education as a part of our education for Rutherford County. So I was happy to be invited to share ideas as far as seasonal eating, and Jamie Becker and I looked at this in January, and we wanted to choose something that we knew would be timely. So menu planning is year-round, so I thought that was a pretty safe topic to cover today. And I won't say that it's near and dear to my heart like I did a cookery last month, but it really is something that I practice and I value it, so I'm happy to share it with others. And the importance of why we should be meal planning for so many reasons. But some steps that you need to consider when you're meal planning, whether you're a college student or living alone, or whether you have a family, need to consider your budget, of course, and how often you will be shopping for groceries. If you're coming to the market every week, if you're going to the grocery store every 2 weeks. So that planning helps you stay within your budget and also make the plan. Also know how many people you're feeding. I almost brought my family calendar to show you because I have 2 young girls at home. And you know, between soccer practices and piano lessons or whatever's going on in your life, or maybe you got invited to a potluck at a club meeting or something. So you need to know your schedule and how many meals you're planning for in that amount of time. So consider that, how many people and how many meals you'll need for that week. You also need to include, if you have a home garden, which some of you in here may very well have a home garden, or if you know what's going to be in season here at the farmer's market, you want to use those fresh ingredients, as well as consider any food that you may have preserved on hand, whether it's in the freezer or canned or dried. So consider that in your meal planning if that needs to be used. Also, and this may sound, you need to think about all the meals and snacks, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks. However, if you're new to meal planning, I would encourage maybe one meal, maybe the evening meal. If you just think of a main dish and one side dish. You can start by, that one main meal, and then use the ads each week to see what's on sale and what's in season. Then where do you get your recipes? Online. A lot of people go straight online now for most recipes. I still use cookbooks. People still, they give you cookbooks for the holidays, and this is what I do to my cookbooks. I immediately go through, read it like a book nearly, and I tag them, all of the ones that I want to choose. And then I write in my cookbooks. So not to advertise, but I'll even color code some of my favorites, and I'll say, oh yeah, made these twice in the same day, they were so good. Or this is my daughter's favorite. Or, this I took to a club meeting and everyone loved it, and I might even put the year. Took it to a church potluck in 2014. So I value that because to me, when other people look at that cookbook, it makes it more personalized. And when you think about, if you had your mother's or your grandmother's cookbook and she had, something made for the preacher one Sunday written in that, it would just make that cookbook more personalized and more special. So that is something I enjoy. That's almost like a hobby. Some people scrapbook. That's just something I do is I write in your cookbooks. Oh, and there's just, you can get recipes definitely, like I said, online and cookbooks. Sharing them is the best way. When you do go to a potluck function and you get to try someone else's recipe, that's the best for me. To get a recipe, because it's great to have the food channels and whatever, but everything they make, they just all the time is just the best thing you've ever tasted. But unless you really tasted it, that might be something you would want to bring home to your family or not.
I was gonna say a lot of products also have begun to drop
Yes.
recipes on their boxes.
On the products.
itself.
And even products will have websites specifically for their ingredients. Yeah. Where else, what are some other places you get your recipes? Yes, ma'am.
I find cookbooks at yard sales quite a bit.
Oh, yeah?
Secondhand bookstores, and they're not expensive.
Anywhere else you get recipes?
People from work.
People from work?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another place where sometimes you share, and we're having a cookout this week at work.
Cooking shows on TV.
Cooking shows.
And Publix, you know, when they do their demonstrations.
Yes.
Sometimes there's really good
I know,
recipes
I
there.
try those, and they'll give you the recipe card too, so, definitely, but once you find those recipes that you want to keep those, and you can make it, put it with a menu, maybe a main dish, and you put it with other side dishes that you enjoy. So, why? What are the benefits? Time and money. I am all about time and money. Time is as valuable to me sometimes as money. So it saves you money when you buy only what you need. You need a list on your refrigerator, so you can add to it. Anyone in the house can add to whatever needs to be purchased at the store. And hopefully that list is going to take some self-control sometimes, but you stay to that list and prevent impulse buying. I say that, but also to be a good consumer, you do need to consider the items that are on sale. Like this is July 4th weekend. There are a lot of things that you could be purchasing at a lower price and kind of keeping your pantry stocked with some of those basic items. Also, it saves you time because hopefully if you plan your meals, it's going to reduce the number of times that you will be going to the store. So you're not having to stop at the store on the way home every day to purchase things. When you meal plan, you are more likely to have a healthier meal. So these two visuals, again, this one from our myplate.gov, to remind you to make half of your plate fruits and vegetables. As a country, we still need to improve on our diet and include more fruits and vegetables. So this is the graphic along with that, and then this is kind of what it looks like in real life. If you want to include half your plate, this example is colorful and attractive, and years ago in those home economics classes, which they call family consumer sciences now, and that's all good, but home economics classes talked about the importance of making your meals attractive and varying the colors, varying the textures. I mean, if you want to really, have a nice meal, if you have people over, or whether it's just your family, you want to have maybe something that's warm or something hot, as well as something that may be a cooler temperature. You don't want a plate that's all white. If it's chicken and mashed potatoes and white bread, it's just not as attractive. And you need maybe crunchy as well as soft. So we also include fruit as a dessert versus cakes and pies and cookies, ice cream. Y'all missed last month. We did ice cream last month, but it had egg in it, so there was some protein there. But eating this way helps control your weight and helps you with disease prevention and avoiding diabetes. Meal planning is healthier for you and for your family. And speaking of your family, when you sit down at a table together, there's all kinds of research as how the whole family benefits as a social unit for you to sit down at the table together and share a meal. So, in my opinion, I like to be a good cook. I want them to be like, yes, Mother's cooking dinner, So that's another reason why it's another mission of mine to get people cooking again. Real foods versus the processed convenience. And when Rachel Ray came out with the 30-minute meals, I thought she has nothing on me, because if it's more than 30 minutes, it may not be done in my house. Because when we're hungry, 30 minutes is about the time limit that I have to work with, unless we use a slow cooker, which is what we're going to do today for our two recipes. So meal planning benefits family time. You will eat healthier, and it is real food. It saves you time, it saves you money. I just, it does take time to do it, however. It has to become a routine that you do. So when you start your meal planning, remember to stay flexible, because sometimes you will have it all planned out and you may get invited to go out with a friend to dinner, and so just remain flexible. Make it a habit, and once you have a menu that is, approved by whoever you're serving, then, keep a note of it and repeat it. So on the back, and I have an example of the sheet on the back, which Ken may zoom in on this for everybody later to see. Okay, you may, it's an age-old question, what's for dinner? What are we having to eat? So you might get into a routine where you may have soup and salad Sundays, meatless Mondays, taco Tuesdays, fish Fridays, sandwich Saturdays, whatever works for you and your family. So, but if you do have like that generic topic, and I've heard of all of those the soup and salad Sunday, I do that because soup and salad is pretty quick, and you can plan that ahead. Meatless Mondays, taco Tuesdays. My daughter has a friend who has, and it's not necessarily a taco. It could be a burrito or it could be a taco salad, but it's varied. But they know that it's going to be some kind of taco Tuesday. And then fish on Fridays. We all have heard the benefits of omega-3s and having fish more often in our diet. So you will hear a lot of involving children in food preparation, because I'm in that stage of life. I have a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, and yesterday my 12-year-old made a pizza all by herself. I was so proud. But they like pizzas and tacos because they can choose their toppings. And my 12-year-old doesn't like cheese. So pizza is kind of and my 9-year-old's not so big on crust. So they have to get their, it's kind of funny. I love being a parent. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This chart can help you focus, do I have food in the house for breakfast? Do I have food in the house for lunches or to take to work to lunch? Do I have food in the house for the evening meal? So, like I said, with any of those meals, you might start with a main dish and one side, and then add maybe a second side. Some people value dessert more than others. We encourage you to use fruits for those desserts. And then some other tips at the top of the page about each day's menu is to make sure that you are including whole grains in your day, as well as at least one vitamin A rich food, which could be your deep greens or your deep orange fruits and vegetables, and then at least one vitamin C rich food, which could again be your citrus fruits, strawberries, or broccoli. So when you're planning, take into account the food that you have on hand. For instance, if a cousin went fishing and they brought you home some striper, that would be great. But so include that or freeze it, either way, what you could do. Include leftovers or plan aheads, which we're going to talk about with the barbecue, the pulled pork that we're going to do. As far as when you're cooking, sometimes with value, time is sometimes money, so you can make a large batch and get more than one meal out of it. And use protein alternatives sometimes as far as dried beans or peas. Those can be less fat depending on how you're preparing them too. So breakfast, that's where I have to get my fruit in. I, as much as anyone, struggle with my fruits and vegetables on a daily basis because you have to be a conscious eater. I try to get my fruit in for breakfast and for snacks early in the day. And then vegetables at lunch and in the evening. And you can even have vegetables as a snack, just depending on what works for your family. But once you have, like I said, a menu that works for you, keep it. And that way you'll have your grocery list, because when you choose a recipe, then you'll have all of your ingredients listed and you can just reuse those. Some people use index cards. I have another option for you though, and I'm not endorsing this, but I just want you to know that there's an option, and there's several of them out there where you can pay someone to do this for you. This one is popular in this area. where Dave Ramsey endorses emails. So I don't know if you've ever heard it advertised on the radio, but doing research for this program, we signed up as a family. So I chose the 30-minute meal plan. And I brought this for you to see what one is like. And then I brought one to show you what it looks like after I'm done with it. So they give you, we signed up for the family of 4 week meal plan for the evening meal. And it gave us 7 meal plans that includes a main dish and a side item. So this is what it looks like, and I'll pass it around. Whether you want a vegetarian diet or a paleo diet or slow cooker recipes, or there's a variety to choose from on their site. And they're not the only ones out there, but this was one that I was familiar with in this area, and I talked to other people. And so they give you the recipe, the instructions, and the grocery list. So we did this for a while, and then we started rating them. And my family, again, loved this because you see the highlights and the marks through, and every night I would say, okay, out of 5 stars, how would you rate this recipe? So some of them, see, this one kind of got a sad face. Because again, with kids, you know, they may not get into chilled green pea soup because that's what that one was on. But they have tried, and we have too, tried some things that we may not have just by trying emails was the name of this one. Now, emails is one of them, as I've mentioned, but there's also, I talked to another friend in Knoxville, and I don't know that Murfreesboro has this in our area, maybe Nashville or Franklin, but there's another one now where you can sign up and they will send you groceries and the recipes, so you don't even have to grocery shop. So, and I don't know the cost of that, but there is a cost involved in this, but I thought it was worth it just to try it and to let you know that is an option for some people. So, recipes. Let me check my. Now we're to the food part. Yay! I like to make friends with food. I have 2 recipes for you today because it is seasonal eating, and I said we were going to choose something that I knew would be here. We have 2 pork producers at the Rutherford County Market, and one of them today does have Boston butts on sale. So, and that is Weaver Farms out of Coffee County, and they have a variety of pork available: tenderloin and boneless chops, ham slices, pork chops, pork burgers, sausages, shoulder roasts, and Boston butts, all available. They also have some other vegetables like sweet corn and pumpkins, you know, when they're in season. But the recipe I chose today was, you know, it's July 4th weekend. I think I mentioned that. Yay! And if you've seen the price of ground beef right now, it may be cheaper to feed a large number of people with a Boston butt or a shoulder roast than it would be hamburgers traditionally. And I'm a beef girl. You know, I grew up on a beef farm. My daddy had a hat that said, "Beef, it builds beautiful bodies. See below." So he was all in with the beef farming. But I do like meat. Yes, I'll have to find that hat. Bring it next month. But the recipe I have, super simple, because you can, when you make a lot of this is one of those plandovers. You can make this pork barbecue and it be a main dish and have side of baked beans and green beans, or you can put it on a bun like it's suggested on here for a sandwich, or you could make pork tacos, just depending how you season the meat. But I think this is a very basic, easy, and then like I said, you can add different seasonings. Again, this one is really good from Chef Jenny. It is also available at our market. This is the Seeds of Success, and this is the paprika seasoning, and she uses sunflower seeds, oregano, garlic powder, and paprika, and sea salt and cayenne. Not too much cayenne, but she is in Murfreesboro and has a you know, for meats, this is one that you can go out there and try. Now this seasoning you would put on after. Sometimes you rub before you season the meat before, but for this you would sprinkle it on after. But I thought it was really tasty. So super simple. And I love the crock pot in the summer. I mean, actually I love the crock pot year round. But I don't like to heat up my kitchen. So that was another thing when I talked about what I was going to prepare today. said, I'm not gonna, do anything in the oven or whatever. So crock pots are great in the summer, so you're not heating up the kitchen. And I did also a slaw because, again, with the slaw and flandovers, I like slaw with barbecue sandwiches. I like it on the sandwich. But I also, as far as slaw with pork tacos, if you use the pork as a taco and use purple cabbage. So I'm going to walk through this recipe for you. But I used sweet onions and sliced them and put a layer of onion on the bottom of the crock pot. And then super simple, just put the pork roast on top of that, put the other onion on top, and put in the ginger ale. Easy, right? And then put the lid on it and let it go. And then after about 8 hours, depending on the size of your roast, because you mentioned doubling it or tripling it, depending on how many people, and also depending on your crock pot. You've got to kind of know, the only way to know for sure is to check the internal temperature with your food thermometers. But depending, on the size of your crock pot and the age of your crock pot, some people are really getting some years out of those crock pots. But check that once that's done, you completely dump out the liquid, the ginger ale, and all those juicy fat liquids, and get rid of that. Put it back in the crock pot, shred it with 2 forks, and then you add your barbecue sauce, your favorite barbecue sauce. Now, I used Sweet Baby Ray's because somebody recommended that one to me. So that one it's again up to you if you're a KC Masterpiece kind of person or whatever. Maybe you have your own homemade barbecue sauce. And depending, I don't like to over sauce or over dress salads and meats, so again, that's kind of up to you how much you put on there. And it also depends on, if you're using it for tacos, you may not want barbecue sauce on that pork. So you might pull out what you're going to need for tacos the next day and season that with a taco seasoning. So depending on what your planned over is for that meat, then use the seasoning that meets with that. Now the slaw, of course, we have beautiful cabbages here at the market. And red cabbage, or as my daughter says, purple cabbages, because her favorite color is purple, and it was just gorgeous last night when I was cutting up. I really felt like a cooking show. I was like, honey, you gotta get in here and see the color of this cabbage. And I thought, did I just say that? But it was really the freshness of real cabbage, and you know where it's coming from, and you know the farmer that grew it. There's really value in that. And then just a basic coleslaw dressing, in my opinion. This is the one that I use at home. Now, I use, real mayonnaise, but you can use a lower fat version to cut calories in the mayonnaise. And I use sugar. You could use Splenda if that also helps you cut calories. And cider vinegar, salt and pepper, dry mustard, and celery seed. I gotta tell you, I could do without celery seed because I had to buy the celery seed to put in here, and it was this little bitty container, and it was almost $5 for celery seed. And I just don't know if that's really worth it, but for you, since it was on the recipe, I had to put celery seed in there. Also in this recipe, it calls for 5 cups of shredded coleslaw mix. Now this is again up to your family. I do not prefer bell peppers or green peppers, so I did not put any bell peppers in it. Mine is just cabbage, red cabbage, and carrots. And I used the mandolin, or I used the shredder for the carrots. But and also that's another personal preference with your family. My husband does not like that really fine chopped cabbage, so I don't use the mandolin. I use a knife to chop my cabbage. So it may be just, again, that's personal preference with who you're preparing it for, whether you like a chunkier cabbage or a fine shred. So what we have for you to taste today is the crock pot pulled pork as well as our coleslaw mix. And Diane is going to help by going to get the slaw in the refrigerator in the kitchen. And we will also be doing our door prize, which I appreciate Nina for.
The door prize is a t-shirt.
The door prize is a t-shirt and measuring spoons. I brought these because I had a lot of help last night, and they were all, they have had training. But my daughter, Josie, who's 9, helps. They love to help. We have Slaw a lot in my home because cabbage is inexpensive and healthy. It's got, and depending on how you like your crunch, you know, how you make it, like, there's a lot of preferences with cabbage. But we have it a lot. But she loves making it because if you'll notice on this recipe, it's 1 cup of mayonnaise, 2 tablespoons of sugar. She gets to use the tablespoon. And then she gets to use the tablespoon again for the vinegar. And then she gets to use the teaspoon for the pepper, and a ½ teaspoon salt, and a ¼ teaspoon for mustard, and an 1/8 teaspoon of celery salt. So she gets to use all the spoons, and that just thrills her. She loves that. So I have measuring spoons from Josie, and then now this may not be your size, but they will swap it outside if you are our door prize winner. So do you want to do the samples and then the door prize, or the door prize first?
Does anyone need to leave right away? Let's do the samples.
Okay, very good. And I await your